Ding. All right, excellent. Yeah. Do you guys want to test your mics? Mine wasn't working. Yeah, this is good, good. Okay, great. Okay, welcome. Good evening, Thursday, March 12th, 6:45. We have a Drug Education and Awareness Committee meeting this evening with members present, Ward 1 Craig Welton and Ward 6 Councilor O'Neill. And this evening we'll have joining us Sharon Cameron of the Public Health Department to address the council on a program that, a new initiative that she's rolling out. So Sharon, take it away.
Thank you very much. So the Healthy Peabody Collaborative over the past few years has been meeting to try to increase the availability of behavioral health resources for our residents. And as part of that initiative, we became aware of a program called the Interface Referral Service. It's operated by William James College, and it's a subscription service that currently there's approximately 58-ish communities in Massachusetts who are enrolled, and they call it a mental health helpline. It is not a crisis line. You may have heard that term when people in crisis can call a 24-hour line and be immediately connected with a provider. That's not what this service is. This service is a helpline for people who recognize that they have a need for behavioral health services and need help finding a provider. One of the biggest barriers to people actually successfully getting the therapy they need is oftentimes it's hard for them to find a provider who, first of all, is taking on new patients, who accepts their insurance, who is on a bus line if they don't have transportation. All of those barriers can be real, and for somebody struggling to find services, oftentimes it results in a person giving up before they actually successfully find that service for themselves. So this service is meant to try to eliminate many of those barriers. They actually assign a case manager to you when you call, and they ask you questions. What type of specialist do you want to see? Is this for child therapy? Is this for substance use? What kind of insurance do you have, or are you self-pay? Do you need a provider who's on a bus line? Do you need a provider who has evening and weekend availability? Do you prefer a male or female? That level of hand-holding. And then William James has a database of over 9,000 clinicians who they've pre-screened and evaluated on all those criteria. They know who takes what insurance, they know who has availability, and then they will match you with a provider. They will then follow up with you to make sure that you were able, in fact, to get an appointment with a provider, and once you've had an appointment, they'll follow up. Did you have a good connection with the provider? If not, would you like us to continue to search for a provider for you? So it's a level of case management that can be very beneficial to people. So we've actually already enrolled. This program was began to be offered in Peabody in February. We've done some press releases. We have distributed information to the various stakeholders who participate in the Healthy Peabody Collaborative. I don't know if you've seen any of the materials. I did bring one of the pieces with me tonight. If I could distribute, is that okay for me to distribute?
Yes, motion to receive. Councilor O'Neill, all in favor, any opposed? It's a vote.
They've evaluated the service with other subscribing communities, and the data that they've provided to us shows that it does in fact shorten the time for people to receive their first appointment, which means that there were lower rates of what they call disengagement, so more people continuing through to receive the services that they need. They provide back to us service reports twice a year. It's a confidential helpline, so there's no information reported back to the community about individuals who've used it, but they give us aggregate data about how many users did they service in Peabody and the types of issues people were seeking counseling for, and whether the services were being sought for an adult or a child. That's sort of aggregate data so we can get a sense of the usage, but we don't get any individual individual information. So it's confidential. It's free to the caller. The city subscribes to the service, so we pay a fee, but there is no fee to any Peabody resident who is calling to use the service. So we think it'll be a great benefit to our residents to have access to these services through this interface referral service.
Any questions from members? Councillor Welton.
Thank you so much for the great background that you provided for this, Sharon. Just a couple quick questions. First, how will this be marketed in the community so that people can take best advantage of this? And then secondly, I'm wondering, this sounds like a wonderful service. I wonder if they might also have, in tandem to the phone call, maybe an app-based service for, especially for the younger demographic that may want to access an opportunity to pursue some mental health services as well. Thank you.
That's a great question. We did talk when the person from Interface came out to train us on this service. They talked about exploring other venues to appeal to the youth, not to appeal, but to make themselves more accessible to youth, such as an app for the phone. I don't believe that's available yet, but it is something that they're aware of, that there would be a benefit to doing that. In terms of the marketing, we have been trained on, there were a group of about a dozen of us from all different sectors of not just city government, but also many of the nonprofits who work with us to understand the service. They did provide us with, in addition to these flyers, they provided us with magnets and small postcards. We're trying to obviously put it out. We did send out a press release. It's up on our websites. What we want to work on next is developing a long size pocket cards that fits in those pockets that first responders have on their uniforms so that they can have these available to them. A lot of the calls, as you know, police and fire respond to, oftentimes people are having a mental health crisis, and we want those first responders to have access to those cards to be able to hand them right on site. So those are what we're doing now. I think, unfortunately, the rollout of this kind of coincided with all the other health issues that are currently going on, so we haven't done as much marketing as we had intended to do. I think once we have the opportunity to do that, we will probably go into PAT and maybe record a program that can be both broadcast on PAT, but we can all link to the city, all the social media that the city has, so people can get a real small snippet of what the service has to offer.
Thank you. Councilor O'Neill?
Thank you, Madam Chairperson. Through you, I just wanted to, I guess, simply applaud Sharon for your efforts in coming forth with this program. I know that in my own experience with family, it's difficult to navigate any kind of medical, in our experience, medical field for assistance. And then the fact that we are having, as a society, challenges with mental health and having people have a, who do they call, where can they go, and this is going to be actually just user-friendly based on their own needs, and I just want to say thank you.
Thank you. And Sharon, could you tell us the cost and what it is this evening that you need from the committee?
So you need to enroll for a 2-year period. We've actually advised them we would like to enroll for a 3-year period. It's $13,000 a year. That's their flat rate. They don't prorate based on the size of the community at all. So $13,000 a year. There was approximately $8,000 in grant funding that the Healthy Peabody Collaborative was able to identify towards that. In addition, we wrote a grant to the J.B. Thomas Leahy Foundation, and they gave us $28,000. So that leaves us with a small funding gap of about $3,000 over the next 3 years of the program.
Thank you. And so you have, I think we had discussed with $1,000 from the Peabody Drug Education and Awareness Fund that would go a long way to help out with that.
Absolutely, that would be much appreciated, and I am absolutely certain that there will be enough value seen in this program that the city will help us fill the remaining gap.
I think we can, if Councilor O'Neill, I happen to have the balance that we have in the fund. I think we raised 8,000 this year, and our balance, we could afford to make that $1,500, so that'll get you halfway to where you need to go. So if Councilor O'Neill, would you like to make a motion in that regard?
And thank you, Madam Chairperson. I'd move to fund by use of the Peabody Drug Education and Awareness Fund, allocate $1,500 to help support this interface referral service. So moved.
Thank you, Councilor. You heard the motion. Roll call on the motion.
Councilors Welton,
Yes.
O'Neill,
Yes.
Manning Martin.
Yes,
Motion carries 3-0.
thank you. And forgive me, are there any other councilors that like to comment or have anything to add? Being none, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Councilor Welton, so moved.
Yes.
Like to call to order this meeting of the Peabody City Council Finance Committee meeting. Here this evening for the committee, your councilors Gould, O'Neill, Manning Martin, and Turco, myself as chairperson. Also present this evening, councilors Welton, councilors Matsoulis, councilor Charis, Councilor Melville, and Councilor Rossignol. First item on the agenda is a statement of interest for the center school. Representing that item for the school committee is school committee member Beverly Ann Griffin Dunn. Mrs. Dunn.
Thank you, Councilor McGinn, and thank you, councilors. What you have for discussion tonight is the submission of a statement of interest for a new center school. We are making that submission under the MSBA's core program. The deficiencies at the center school are lengthy, and we feel that the center school is appropriate for the core program, that it's a very good candidate for the core program. And as you know, we have submitted this in the past, and we will continue to submit it until we get MSBA approval on this project. I would like to say that I'm here to answer questions, and also our purchasing agent, Dan Doucette, is here as well. And I think even Mr. Gingras would be available for some questions. Unfortunately, the center school principal and staff and some of the families were planning to attend your next meeting. I had misunderstood and thought that you would hear this presentation tonight, and then it would go to the full council at your next meeting. My understanding now is it would be heard tonight at your meeting. And they were very, very interested in coming to show their support, and if you needed to, they would be available for the questions. But that's why they're not here at this time, and I did want to let you know that. So with the center school, the issues, again, the issues are lengthy. The roof leaks, the building itself is not appropriate for 21st century education. I can give you examples of that. When the center school was built, we didn't have all the technology that we have. All of those classrooms have one electrical outlet. Some of the lucky ones have two. In this day and age, that's not adequate for the technology that we required in the day-to-day operation of the school. The systems in the building, the heating, the plumbing, even the electrical system, they are completely inadequate for today's needs. The center school is not ADA compliant, and it is absolutely not handicap accessible. If a student with a handicap who cannot go to the second floor attends the center school, that student needs to stay on the first floor, and the classrooms are adjusted accordingly so that there is a shift to allow that student and his or her classmates to remain on the first floor. If the student attends for 5 years, the classrooms are all adjusted every year. We have parents who require an elevator. They cannot attend parent-teacher conferences in that building if they haven't got appropriate access to the second floor. Even many of the access routes into the building are not to code. And right now, that's just how it is. But to be able to have a building that conforms to the current code, that provides an excellent facility for our students and staff, is the reason behind the application for the SOI. So if you have any questions, I'd be glad to answer them.
Councilor Gould.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Welcome, Bev. How you doing? Can you tell, for those that aren't very familiar with the language, can you tell us what the core program is, please?
Sure. There are two programs. They have accelerated repair, which you voted on recently for the south and the west. And then they have a core program. And the difference is accelerated repair is a very targeted, simple project. For example, replace the roof, replace the windows. Those are, I don't want to say simple, but compared to a core project, they are. A core project involves multiple systems in a building, and it could be limited to, electricity, plumbing, and heating. But because of the involvement of just those three systems, a project wouldn't fall under the accelerated repair because it's very specific. You would go into a core program. And a core program also provides a schematic design and a feasibility study, which is what we're heading into with the Welch project. And a feasibility study looks at all of the financial ramifications of specific construction options. So we will get, on a core project, a study that shows your financials on repair, renovation, addition, or new. They give that breakdown. And then at the end, the city has the ability to make the determination of which way they want to go. So it's much more extensive.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Gould. Councilor Turco.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Ms. Dunn, for coming tonight. Just two questions for you, and I know you've explained this in the past, but just give me a little reminder. This says the project is priority 7, and I know that has a different meaning than you would assume that it has, so could you just briefly explain the priority number?
The MSBA has a list of priorities that they look at when you are making an application for a program. Actually, I don't have them in front of me, but I do know that 7 is the one that we have chosen because we feel that it is the most appropriate for that building because of the deficiencies in the facility and the systems in that building.
Right, so in no way is it of, is it in regards to importance of this, so it's not number 7 in importance of items that we've submitted in the past?
No, I'm glad you asked. No, it's an MSBA category, and when you apply under any of the projects, you have to find the one that applies best to your request. So it's not in order of importance, it's in order of their listing. And it's definitely not in our order of importance. Right now, the center school is, I know you always will ask what's first and second. I would say right now the center school is the priority because we are coming to you with 2 statements of interest. And I believe the center school is going to be a priority.
Thank you for the clarification. And my second question, and on the documents that we have, the vote tally sheets from the school committee for February 25th, those vote tallies are left blank. I would imagine that these passed 7-0. We don't have that. Did all 6 school committee members and the mayor vote in the affirmative for these?
I'll be honest. That night, I was, as vice chair, the mayor was absent, and I was chairing this committee meeting. I was unable to vote. So it was all 5 members, but it was noted that if I was able to vote, I would absolutely vote in favor of submitting that. So it was unanimous.
Thank you very much. And that's for both statements of interest, right?
Yes.
It's 5-0. Thank you.
Other committee members? Other councilors? Councilor Welton.
Thank you, Chairman, again. Just, Ms. Dunn, if you wouldn't mind clarifying for me, you had mentioned that the Welch School is in a feasibility study right now. Is that correct?
I misspoke. We are working towards the feasibility study. the first part, MSBA's got all these terms. We are in the feasibility study module, and we are at the point of selecting an owner's project manager. Actually, we have submitted the paperwork for that, so we are on track to get that approved. What they do now for the feasibility study is you have to select an owner's project manager, then you have to select a designer, which in many cases is the architect. And then at that point, there will be an actual report generated by those two groups that again provides us the cost, the recommended construction, everything that would go into the actual project. And then at the end of that study time, we will get a report. So it used to be very separate, and now it's all considered feasibility study. So we're at the very beginning of the feasibility study process, but we don't have the study conducted yet.
Great, thank you for clarifying. So the center school essentially would be following the same model as where we are right now with the Welch School?
It should, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Thanks.
Thank you, Councilor Welton.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
If I could explain one thing just for the process. What happens at this time with MSBA is a community has to get the approval of the school committee and then, in our case, the city council. If we were a town, it would be a little bit different. The votes that you take give us the authority to submit the statement of interest. And the statement of interest is basically an application to be invited into the MSBA program. If we get invited in, and they will always tell you, and I think it's even in the bottom of the wording of your vote, if we get invited in, there's still never any guarantee that we will have an MSBA project. But if you're invited in and then you begin following the MSBA process, you enter into the OPM selection process, the designer selection, the completion of a feasibility study, schematic design, and then you move into the actual construction.
Thank you, Mrs. Dunn. What is the will of the committee? Councilor O'Neill.
Thank you, Chairman. We've looked at this one before and did it last year, and hopefully can submit it. So I would move to make a motion by the Peabody City Council, move to submit the following statement of interest to the MSBA regarding the center school. Resolved, having convened in an open meeting on March 12th, 2020, prior to the statement of interest submission closing date, the City Council of the City of Peabody, in accordance with its charter, bylaws, and ordinances, has voted to authorize the superintendent to submit the Massachusetts School Building Authority the statement of interest form dated March 26, 2020, for the center school located at 18 Irving Street, Peabody, Massachusetts, which describes and explains the following deficiencies and the priority categories for which an application may be submitted to the Massachusetts School Building Authority in the future. The MSBA priority selected is priority number 7, replacement and renovation of or addition to obsolete buildings in order to provide for a full range of programs consistent with state and approved local requirements. The specific objective of this SOI is to partner with the MSBA in a feasibility study for the replacement of the center school. The educational deficits of the center school are articulated in the center school SOI and include the need for a gym space, cafeteria space, food service, servery, and kitchen space, much-needed upgrades to classrooms, meeting rooms, electrical, plumbing, and HVAC systems. And the Peabody City Council hereby further specifically acknowledges that by submitting this statement of interest form, the Massachusetts School Building Authority in no way guarantees the acceptance or the approval of an application, the awarding of a grant or any other funding commitment from the Massachusetts School Building Authority, or commits the city to filing an application for funding with the Massachusetts School Building Authority. So moved.
Councilors, you've heard the motion. Roll call.
Councilors Gould,
Yes.
Manning Martin. Turco.
Yes.
O'Neill.
Yes.
McGinn.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you, councilors.
Moving on to item 2, Statement of Interest, Peabody Veterans Memorial High School. School Committee Member Beverly Ann Griffin Dunn.
Thank you again. Once again, you have voted on this in the past. We are still attempting to have the MSBA select Peabody Veterans Memorial High School for an MSBA project. The deficiencies at the high school, they are in the same category as those at the center school. The school isn't suitable for 21st century education. And I know that sounds really strange because everyone thinks of it as the new high school and that it's a new building. It's actually almost 50 years old. And I will tell you, personally, doing research on this last year, I found a report that showed that that building has never been adequate for the city of Peabody since the day it opened. We accommodated the building. The building didn't accommodate what we needed. So right now, many of the deficiencies that you probably are aware of are that at the school, it was designed for education in the 1970s, and now education is much different. We have patched together a system of being able to have, technology in the classrooms, but it's not ideal. We have worked on the building itself with many different issues. When you correct one, you end up changing another situation and causing another problem in another way. So this, again, is a request to have additions or a new building. New classrooms are needed at the high school. I can give you some examples. Our counseling needs have changed dramatically. There isn't adequate space in the high school for the room needed for confidential counseling of students and of families. We have people meeting in closets. We have classrooms currently where the floor is coming up, and there are holes. We've got students out in portable classrooms. Then they're just not adequate. They're absolutely creating a problem with providing education because we don't have heat in some classrooms. Some classrooms have abundant heat, some have none. And I could go on and on. Our report will be very specific, but in order to provide an education for today, we need an upgrade in that building. And your high school, again, it's my opinion, but I know it's shared by many people. Your high school is usually the crowning glory of your educational system in a community. We want that for Peabody High. There's a lot of great teaching that goes on in there, but there's a lot that can't go on because of the building. So that's why we're submitting this again. And again, we will keep submitting it until MSBA comes through with a project for Peabody on Peabody Veterans Memorial High School.
Councilor Gould.
I'm ready to read the motion if there's no other discussion, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilor Gould. Are there any other questions or comments from committee members or other councilors? Seeing none. Councilor Gould, as long as you have the correct adjustments there, I had provided that earlier to Councilor O'Neill.
Go by all means. I defer to Councilor O'Neill. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Gould. Co-motion with Councilor O'Neill and Councilor Gould. Please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Motion by the Peabody City Council, move to submit the following statement of interest to the MSBA regarding the Peabody Veterans Memorial High School. Resolved, having convened in an open meeting on March 12, 2020, prior to the SOI submission closing date, the City Council of the City of Peabody, in accordance with its charter, bylaws, and ordinances, has voted to authorize the superintendent to submit to the Massachusetts School Building Authority the statement of interest form dated March 26, 2020, for the Peabody Veterans Memorial High School located at 485 Lowell Street, Peabody, Massachusetts, which describes and explains the following deficiencies in the priority categories for which an application may be submitted to the Massachusetts School Building Authority in the future. The MSBA priority selected is priority number 7, quotation, replacement and renovation of or addition to obsolete buildings in order to provide for a full range of programs consistent with state and approved local requirements, end quote. The specific objective of this SOI is to partner with the MSBA in a feasibility study for the replacement of the Peabody Veterans Memorial High School. The educational deficits of the Peabody Veterans Memorial High School are articulated in the Peabody Veterans Memorial High School SOI and include the need for much-needed upgrades to classrooms, science areas, industrial arts classrooms, meeting rooms, electrical, plumbing, and HVAC systems, energy efficiencies, building envelope, disability accessibility, and security considerations. And the City Council hereby further specifically acknowledges that by submitting this statement of interest form, the Massachusetts School Building Authority in no way guarantees the acceptance or the approval of an application, the awarding of a grant or any other funding commitment for the Massachusetts School Building Authority, or commits the city to filing an application for funding with the Massachusetts School Building Authority. So moved.
Councilors, you've heard the motion. Roll call.
Councilors Gould. Manning Martin.
Yes.
Turco.
Yes.
O'Neill.
Yes.
McGinn.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all very much.
The third item on the agenda is transfer of funds, cable fund expense, $228,173.96. Director of Finance, Mr. Gingras, is here to explain. Mr. Gingras.
Thank you. This is a quarterly transfer. Ever since we established this fund, we need to make a transfer every quarter. This is for receipts from December, September through December for cable fees, and we'll be transferring that money to pay PAT.
Questions from committee members? Questions from other councilors? Seeing none, what is the will of the committee? Councilor Turco.
Move to approve the transfer from Receipts Reserve Cable Fund account 270-0000-33017 in the amount of $228,173.96 to the Cable Fund expense account number 270-0000-53007 in the amount of $228,173.96.
Councilors, you heard the motion. Roll call.
Councilors Gould. Manning Martin. Turco.
Yes.
O'Neill.
Yes.
McGinn.
Yes.
Motion carries 4-0.
Thank you, Mr. Chambers.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, Mr. Sasslaw.
Thank you, Chairman. Just while Mr. Gingras is here, I was going to bring up as a motion, but while you're here tonight, I just want to follow up on the motion that Council Gravel made last year regarding that the Finance Director provide the City Council effective for the regular meeting on August 22nd, and then every second meeting monthly thereafter, a status of appropriations for the City of Peabody for all departments, including the Peabody Public Schools, and that would be referred to Finance Committee each month for review. That hasn't happened. I was hoping that that would happen, and I just wanted to ask you if you could make that happen as the motion was made last year.
Yeah, I'm going to, I know you had the question for
Through the chair.
Mr. Gingras. Yeah, in evaluating that motion and seeing what had come to us multiple times in the packages last year and understanding that we realistically only got to it one time, even after receiving the information multiple times over an extended period, it seemed like, as a practical matter, getting that level of detail at that level, at that frequency was perhaps more information than we needed. So I spoke with, after becoming chair of the Finance Committee, in an effort to try to have this committee be as efficient as we can be, but yet understanding the spirit of the motion and trying to make sure that we have the information that we need and the council is fully informed. I spoke with Mr. Gingras about possibly coming up with something that is a little bit more summarized and that would kind of highlight things that he sees coming so that it would be less necessary for us to plow through that level of detail to try to ferret out the few items that perhaps would be coming an issue as time went on. So I think the spirit of the motion was to kind of give us a heads up on things that were coming. But my attempt was to, rather than going into that detail and more or less micromanaging the finance department, to have them do the work and identify to us more in a summary format, some things that were coming. So Mr. Gingras agreed with that approach, and I'll obviously let him speak for himself. But he and I started to discuss what form that might take, and actually just recently we've gotten a couple of first drafts of what that summarized report might look like. So again, the attempt here was to get the council the type of information that was requested, but in a more efficient manner, in a more summarized manner, in a more easily digestible manner. And so that was essentially the outcome of that motion thus far. But again, I'll let Mr. Gingras speak to that from his perspective.
Thank you. To follow up on what Councilor McGinn said, I'm working on trying to summarize some of the data and create a narrative, reviewing what the status of the revenues are, what the status of the expenditures are in the budget and the other funds, what I see as key drivers or issues, and maybe put that in paragraph form along with some summarized numbers, and give you an update once a month or once a quarter, whatever the council wishes. And I'm going to try to have that draft format for the next submission for the city council. And we can evaluate it and adjust it as we go forward.
Council Sasslaw.
I'm sorry, Mr. Did you say you're going to try and have it? When was the submission? I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
The next council submission, next Friday or whenever it is, I'll try to get it in for that.
Thank you, I appreciate that. Thank you.
I'll accept a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
You heard the motion, we're adjourned.
The regular city council meeting will start in 2 minutes. Thank you. One more minute, please. I'd like to open the regular meeting of the Peabody City Council to be held on March 12th here at the Wiggins Auditorium. This meeting is being televised live on cable channel 9 and is being taped by Peabody Access Television and also being recorded by the City Council stenographer. If you'd now please rise for a moment of silence. And now the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Move approval of the record.
Just for clarification, that's the revised record on our desk, correct, Councilor Turco?
Move to receive a late communication, which is the revised record.
You heard the motion. All in favor? Any opposed? It's a vote.
And move approval of that record.
So moved. Before we start our meeting, I just wanted to let everybody know Council Gould had to leave unexpectedly. His mom is not doing well, and she is on hospice. So my thoughts and prayers are with her at this moment and with the Gould family. We'll now move to the hearings. Item 4A, the clerk will read the notice.
Notice is hereby given that the City Council of the City of Peabody, acting as the special permit granting authority, will conduct a public hearing on Thursday evening, March 12, 2020, at 7:30 p.m. in the Frank L. Wiggin Auditorium, City Hall, 24 Lowell Street, Peabody, Mass., on the application from Tedisco Properties, LLC, 29 Jennifer Lane, Peabody, Mass., for a special permit seeking to change and alter the legally existing non-conforming structures and use by demolishing the existing structures and constructing 42 residential condominium units as shown on a plan of land dated October 25, 2019 at 40 to 42 Endicott Street, Peabody, Mass., as filed in accordance with Sections 1.5, 6.1, and 15.7 of the Peabody zoning ordinance. Peabody City Council, Councilor Thomas J. Rossignol, City Council President.
Thank you very much. Will the petitioner please state your name and address for the record?
For the record, my name is Ethan Bonzalidis. I'm an attorney practicing law at 246 Andover Street in Peabody. And since we're short one counselor, I'm requesting that this hearing be continued to your next meeting so that we have the benefit of a full council.
Thank you. Councilor Mitsoulas.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I can't add to that. Yeah, we're missing a counselor, and I recommend the same thing. Let's hold it off till next meeting. So move.
Councilor Martin.
I'd like you to probably put that to a vote. I think we should move forward. You have a lot of people out here this evening. It's already been postponed once. And I think that everybody's prepared to move forward with this. So I'm not in favor of postponing it.
Councilor Mitsoulas, was that in the form of a motion?
I guess we'll have to vote on it. Yeah.
Heard the motion by Councilor Mitsoulas to extend the public hearing and move it to the following meeting. Roll call vote.
Councilors Welton,
Yes.
Sasslaw,
Yes.
Mitsoulas.
Yes.
Gould, Charist,
Yes.
Manning Martin,
No.
Turco,
Yes.
O'Neill,
Yes.
Melville,
Yes.
McGinn,
Yes.
Rozignol.
Yes.
Motion carries 9 to 1.
Thank you very much. I'm sorry for taking up your time.
Thank you. Moving on to the next agenda item, item 4B. The clerk will read the notice.
Notice is hereby given that the City Council of the City of Peabody will conduct a public hearing on Thursday evening, March 12, 2020, at 7:30 p.m. in the Frank L. Wigan Auditorium, City Hall, 24 Lowell Street, Peabody, Mass., on the application from GameStop, Inc., number 7832, 625 Westport Parkway, Grapevine, Texas, for a junk dealer's license at 210 Andover Street, Suite E2121, Peabody, Mass. Peabody City Council, Councilor Thomas J. Rozignol, City Council President.
Thank you, Mrs. Danforth. And is the petitioner here in the audience? What's that? Is the GameStop petitioner here in the audience? Councilor Charest, would you like to recess this?
Yes, I
Hearing.
think on the circumstances, I've reached out. I did not hear back, but certainly the circumstances with my family this week, I would like to ask for a continuance and reach out again. I certainly would want the petitioner here. I understand it's pretty simple. It's in the mall, but if we could give them benefit of maybe with the atmosphere that's going on today, they misread something. So move.
You heard the motion by Councilor Charest. Roll call vote.
Councilors Welton,
Yes.
Sasslaw.
Yes.
Mitsoulas.
Yes.
Charis.
Yes.
Manning Martin. Turco.
Yes.
O'Neill.
Yes.
Melville.
Yes.
McGinn.
Yes.
Rozignol.
Yes.
Motion carries 9 to 0.
Thank you. We'll now move on to item 4C, special permit.
Mr. President, I'm sorry, before you...
Councilor Turco.
Thank you very much. I just wanted to, I don't know if you saw him, but I wanted to give Council Welton the opportunity to introduce the young lady sitting to his left.
Thank you,
Councilor
Councilor Turco. Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to introduce Rachel Turner. She's going to be the Ward 1 City Councilor for the school City Council Day that we have coming up. So, Rachel, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Rachel Turner. I'm a senior at Peabody High.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The clerk will read the notice for item 4C.
Notice is hereby given that the City Council of the City of Peabody, acting as the special permit granting authority, will conduct a public hearing on Thursday evening, March 12, 2020, at 7:30 p.m. in the Frank L. Wigan Auditorium, City Hall, 24 Lowell Street, Peabody, Mass., on the application from Brake Lights Motorsports, 131 Newbury Street, Peabody, Mass., for a special permit to allow for the sale of secondhand motorcycles at 131 Newbury Street, Peabody, Mass., as filed in accordance with sections 4.2.5, 6.1, and 15.7 of the Peabody zoning ordinance. Peabody City Council, Councilor Thomas J. Rozignol, City Council President.
Thank you very much. If the petitioner would please state your name and address for the record.
Mark Tempesta, 12 Linda Street, Hudson, New Hampshire.
And just state what you're looking to do at your facility.
We are looking for a Class 2 license in order to sell pre-owned motorcycles.
Is there anybody in the audience that would like to speak in favor of the petitioner? In favor? Is there anybody in the audience that would like to speak in opposition? In opposition? Seeing none? Councilor Sasslaw.
Thank you, Council President. I had the opportunity to meet the business owner this past week to go up and review what he'd like to do. Basically, as he stated, he just wanted to do motorcycles, and we agreed to a couple of conditions that the 15 motorcycles would all be stocked inside the building or slash store. Also agreed that would be no automobile sales, as there was not, that was not the purpose of the license, nor was there any room. And the hours of operation are currently listed. I'm comfortable with that, and I have no further questions. I plan on supporting this. He has been there for a number of years, right next to Red's, runs a good operation. I've never had any complaints, never any issues, and he's just trying to increase his revenue to stay in business. As he said in his paragraph, costs keep going up, and he's just trying to look for new ways to generate revenue, so I will be supporting this. Thank you.
Councilor Charest.
Thank you, President. Just had a question, actually, to yourself and maybe other members of the council. Last year, we approved of a, I think it was the first time a motorcycle license dealership sales here in Peabody. Do you remember how many motorcycles they were limited to?
12.
And this is how many requesting through the chair to Councilor Sasslaw?
The request was for 15.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions by the council? I just have one. With those 15 total, or was that 15 inside and then there was some more available outside according to your request, Councilor Sasslaw?
The 15 would be strictly for inside, just for motorcycles for sale. Maximum 15, no more than 15. And one other piece I did think it was important to mention is there are no, there'll be no testing of motorcycles behind the facility, no driving of motorcycles, so there's no, that is where there's a truck stop up there in Reds. It's pretty busy, and we went over that they don't test them in the parking lot, anything of that nature, so I thought that was important. I did fail to mention that. Thank you.
Councilor Charest.
I'm sorry, thank you, Councilor. President, I had a question. Would you be doing inspections and working on the motorcycles too, or is it just strictly sales?
We are already in business doing the accessories and service for the motorcycles. It's a pre-existing business. We've been there for 15 years. So, but we do not do inspections.
Will you be looking to do that also, or not?
It is something that we are also looking into.
And with that, would you not have to test drive the cycles themselves?
For the actual inspection purpose, it's not required for you to ride the motorcycle. Again, there are times in our service that we do ride a motorcycle to determine what a problem is a customer's having. Some things are only duplicatable by riding it, but that is, again, something that we have been doing without any issue.
Councilor McGinn.
Thank you, Mr. President. And I think I understood the clarification to your question by Councilor Sasslaw, but I just want to make sure I totally get it. You had asked about outdoor, and I read in the application, this is in bold, all caps, it says indoor sales only. That's correct, right? There is no outdoor element of this?
Through the chair, correct, yes.
Thank you, Councilor Sasslaw. Thank you, Mr. President.
Seeing no further questions, Councilor Sasslaw.
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to close the public hearing.
The motion, all in favor, any opposed? It's a vote. Councilor Sasslaw.
I'd like to make a motion on the application for Brake Lights Motorsports, 131 Newbury Street, Peabody, Mass., for a special permit to allow for the sale of secondhand motorcycles at 131 Newbury Street, Peabody, Mass., has been filed in accordance with sections 4.2.5, 6.1, and 15.7 of the Peabody zoning ordinance, with two conditions. Number one, 15 motorcycles is the maximum, and they are all to be stored inside. And number two, no automobile sales. So move.
You heard the motion by Councilor Sasslaw. Seeing no questions on the motion, roll call vote.
Councilors Welton,
Yes.
Sasslaw,
Yes.
Charist,
Yes.
Manning Martin, Turco,
Yes.
O'Neill,
Yes.
Melville,
Yes.
McGinn,
Yes.
Rozignol.
Yes.
Motion carries 9-0.
We'll now move to item 4D. The clerk will read the notice.
Notice is hereby given that the City Council of the City of Peabody will conduct a public hearing on Thursday evening, March 12, 2020, at 7:30 p.m. in the Frank L. Wigan Auditorium, City Hall, 24 Lowell Street, Peabody, Mass., on the application from Brake Light Motorsports LLC, 131 Newbury Street, Peabody, Mass., for a Class II motor vehicle license at said 131 Newbury Street, Peabody, Mass. Peabody City Council, Councilor Thomas J. Rozignol, City Council President.
Thank you, Allison Danforth. The petitioner will state your name and address for the record and say what you're planning on doing.
Mark Tempesta, 12 Linda Street, Hudson, New Hampshire. Looking for a Class II dealer license.
Anybody in the audience to speak in opposition? In opposition? Anybody in the audience to speak in favor? To speak in favor of the petitioner? Seeing none, Councilor Sasla.
Thank you, Council President. And as Mr. Tempesta stated, there is a Class II motor vehicle license available, and he would like that so that he can run his business of used motorcycle sales. I will be supporting it. Thank you.
Any questions from the council? Councilor Charest.
Thank you, Council President. Do we have a limit on how many sales we have on dealers on motorcycles? Because I know we just started this up.
Mrs. Danforth.
We have 52 licenses in the city. Well, for Class II. This is a Class II license.
It's the same? So I'm just trying to remember, like, when the last time it came up, I thought there was a difference between the motorcycles, strictly motorcycles, and then, okay. So with this, with the license, I'm going to support it, so don't worry about it. Do we, at the special permits, say when they can only have motorcycles?
I believe that's what we did in the past with the last applicant that was looking for motorcycles. We made that part of the license, and I believe that is what Councilor Sasla did in the last hearing. So I think we're kind of on the same page. Any other questions by the council? Seeing none, Councilor Sasla.
Thank you. I'd like to make a motion to close the public hearing.
You heard the motion. All in favor? Any opposed? It's a vote. Sasla.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the application from Brake Lights Motorsports LLC, 131 Newbury Street, Peabody, Mass., for a Class II motor vehicle license at said 131 Newbury Street, Peabody, Mass. So move.
You heard the motion. No questions on the motion. Seeing none, roll call vote.
Councilors Welton.
Yes.
Sasslaw.
Yes.
Charist.
Yes.
Manning Martin. Turco.
Yes.
O'Neill.
Yes.
Melville.
Yes.
McGinn.
Yes.
Rozignol.
Yes.
Motion carries 9-0.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll now move on to item 4E, special permit. Clerk will read the notice.
Notice is hereby given that the City Council of the City of Peabody, acting as the special permit granting authority, will conduct a public hearing on Thursday evening, March 12, 2020, at 7:30 p.m. in the Frank L. Wigan Auditorium, City Hall, 24 Lowell Street, Peabody, Mass., on the application from LCI Management, care of Eric Lucano, 18 Sergeant Street, Gloucester, Mass., for a special permit seeking to amend condition number 5 of Special Permit 14-1993 by changing the use of the property from auto storage as presently used to allow for self-storage, which is an allowed by right use at 151 Andover Street, Peabody, Mass., as filed in accordance with sections 1.5, 6.1, and 15.7 of the Peabody zoning ordinance. Peabody City Council, Councilor Thomas J. Rozignol, City Council President.
Thank you. If the petitioner would step to the podium and please state your name and what you're planning on doing for the record.
Good evening, councilors. My name is John Kelty. I'm an attorney. I practice law at 40 Lowell Street here in Peabody, Massachusetts. I appear this evening on behalf of LCI Management of 18 Sargent Street in Gloucester, Mass. My client has entered into a purchase and sale agreement with Brian Kelly, who is the current owner of the property at 151 Andover Street here in Peabody, Massachusetts. The site is formally, most recently, it's been used by Brian Kelly, and he has a special permit to utilize it as automobile storage. He has endeavored to, it was before that, I'm sorry, it was before that, it had been the site of Board of Books. The building was granted a special permit in 1993. In that special permit, it was set forth that if there was any kind of change in use, even if the change of use was an allowed use, which our self-storage facility is an allowed by right use of the property. However, that 1993 special permit did say that if there was any change in the use, that we needed to come back before the City Council. And so here we are before the City Council to change the use of the property, add an addition to the property. That addition is 192 feet by 92. It will be brick and mortar as it faces replicating the style and style of the building that is currently built there. We have been to the Board of Appeals. Our first meeting at the Board of Appeals, we were we were granted a continuance. After that meeting, we had a meeting on a Monday night with the neighbors that was on the premises. A very substantial number of neighbors turned out at that meeting, as they had at the Zoning Board of Appeals meeting. Most recently, we've been back to the Zoning Board of Appeals. Our neighbors were not quite so abundant in attendance, but they did not oppose our grant of variance. We are here this evening, and we have we've also been to the Conservation Commission, where we were last evening. We will be given an order of conditions. The only deficiency last night was that when we saw comments from the Community Development Authority, Public Services, et cetera, when we saw those comments as were given to you, we've tried to incorporate them into revised plans. And these plans that you'll see this evening have all those revisions on them. And I have a roll which I will give to the clerk, not as a late addition, but so that we are sure that the plans, if you approve these plans this evening, that the plans are the plans that we're talking about and have the ADA compliant walkways, et cetera, as were required by Building Department, Public Services, et cetera. We will, as I've said, we've entered into a P&S with Brian Kelly. Mr. Kelly is here this evening in support of our proposition. As I've stated, the building addition is 92 by 192, and it will be attached. That's the existing building that is located right here, and our addition then extends going toward Descenza Jeweler and Loris Road. We are moving our access. The current access to the premises is right here, right in the middle of where our addition is going to go. That will be closed, curbing added, and the sidewalk, which is along here, which is a cement sidewalk, that'll be stretched and added to the area where the curb cut currently is. There is a curb cut at this end of the property, a little closer to Loris Road. As importantly for us, it's further away from the Route 128 access from 128 to Route 114 going west. We feel that one of the problems with this site historically has been that if you're coming from Gloucester, Danvers, and you head up 128, and you use this exit to get onto 114, and you then want to head over to the shopping center, for instance, there's this particular entrance is easily missed by people that want to either by people that wanted to previously get into Board of Books. So we've moved our entrance down to this area closer to Loris Road, so there's a little more time for people to make the choice. We do not expect whatsoever to be generating the kind of traffic that either Board of Books or a car dealership or any of those, once these facilities are built, people get there. It'll take us approximately over a year to build the facility, and then it takes approximately 2 years to fill it out. There will be 795 storage units on the premises. Eric? 780, I'm sorry, 780 storage units on the premises. They range in size. We expect to do predominantly storage for people who are either downsizing, have moved, or between moves and need to store furniture. And then there's just myriad kinds of things that people can't fit into their houses, and they end up using a storage facility such as this. Eric Loicano, who is my client, and he operates a large facility in Gloucester, Mass., and he operates another facility on Sawyer Road in Beverly, which he recently completed, and he's still in the process of filling that particular facility. We have seen the Community Development Board of Health, Public Services. We've seen all of those. We have incorporated all of the items that the departments have suggested. We've incorporated them into a plan. However, last night we did not have a plan that had incorporated erosion control and a couple of other issues. They do show on the roll I'm going to give you. We will submit that to the Conservation Commission, and the Conservation Commission has assured us once they have the finalized plan in their possession, which is the plan we're hoping you will act on this evening, that we will be issued a order of conditions. Following here and getting that order of conditions, we'll be in a position to apply for site plan review, which will take us before the Construction Review Committee and the Planning Board. And our drainage, which was submitted, stormwater drainage, which was submitted to the Conservation Commission, will be reviewed again, and we will be completed with the process. We have added ADA-compliant sidewalks to the plan in this particular area. We have added a grading and drainage sheet. The area between the driveway and Loris Road will end up being landscaped. As we come in here, right now the parking for Board of Books extends all the way over very near to the border with, I'm sorry, but the laser will take you, blind you. We are very close to Loris Road with our current parking. This area in here will all be regraded and will be loamed and seeded and will become a green area. Driveway will be 2 cars wide, and there will be 6 spaces located. The office will be located at this end of the premises. People will bring their storage materials. They'll bring them to this particular area. We explained to our neighbors that it is not a loading dock. It's a ground level slider, as if you were entering almost a department store or one of the mall entrances. Sliding plexiglass door, and then once you're inside, those doors close. There are no dumpsters out of doors. That was a concern that our neighbors had. Would we attend to them? The rules with respect to all of Eric's facilities are, if you bring your materials in a box, or you bring some appliance in a box goes home with you. If it doesn't go home with you, you can we will either fine them because the rules and regulations do provide for a fine for violations of that nature, or if it's left inside the facility, we'll take care of it. We'll get rid of those storage boxes. We are aware of the rodent control program. Eric has participated in that in both Beverly and in Gloucester during construction. We have companies that we've worked with in the past, so we will be fully compliant with respect to the Board of Health's rodent control issues. We have added resource area and buffers that are all shown on our plans and will be given to the Conservation Commission. We have received, and I think that Haley Ventura Wilson will want to present some of her concerns as a neighbor. They are immediate abutters to this property. They are located, we have two fences. One is wooden and the other is more of a cyclone type. We're going to replace the fence that's up on the upper stories because there is other work. We're going to clean out some debris that is collected on the slope between us and our neighbors, and then there's another fence down here. We're going to, that's almost 9 or 10 feet tall. We're going to replace that as needed. We have been asked what we're going to do with snow storage. The neighbors have asked that we store that in this end of the property, and we're happy to comply with that. The Conservation Commission doesn't want us putting snow banks or snow storage over the large drain that eventually takes the stormwater out to a swale and into the state highway system. So we're happy to do that. In terms of dust control and dirt control, we will have a watering truck to keep dust down during construction. These are predominantly, the snow is an ongoing concern for the neighbors. They do not want it stored along here because it will then melt, and because this grade drops down into their yards, it'll end up in their yards. So we're happy to put our snow over in this particular area where that will not occur. There was some suggestion, I think I would probably turn it over to Haley now, and she can express concerns and we can address them and work out some conditions. May I?
Is there anybody that would like to speak in favor of the petitioner? In favor? Is there anybody that would like to speak in opposition? In opposition? Just say your name and address.
Hi, everyone. My name is Haley Ventura Wilson. I live with my husband, Sean Wilson, at 3 Reynolds Road, directly abut the property, as well as Al and Diane Gralia. We are direct abutters, and there's about, I think, 5 houses that abut the property. We're not here to oppose, but we are here to put some things on record, concerns that we genuinely have. Al and Diane went through the construction for the border books, so they've kind of gone through this once. And we just want to put out concerns regarding the actual construction and then concerns regarding the day-to-day business. Because, you know, this is our home and this is where we go home at night to relax, and they're operating a business day to day. So we don't want to be a thorn in their side. We want to work together with them. And they've been great, so we figured let's just get this out there and go from there. We have spoken with Jack as well as Eric regarding the hours of construction. They're stating 7 a.m. till, what did you say? 5 p.m. for hours of construction, Monday through Saturday. They have agreed to no holidays, and Saturday's more like a skeleton crew. One of the things that I don't know if people realize, but we are surrounded by construction right now with the mall, and then anything going on at 128. The mall, it's supposed to start at 7 a.m. and it starts at 6 a.m., 6:30. You can hear it every day. So I explained to Eric, I can't in my backyard, when I'm getting ready for work in the morning, I can't hear construction at 6 a.m. So he's agreed to keep that going, to start at 7 a.m., no earlier. The noise is legitimately going to affect our everyday lives for over a year just for the construction itself. So we're hoping a point of contact between us to be able to keep that. If it's, I don't know how, you can't control construction noise, but somehow to limit the best we can. As mentioned, the trash and debris, the dust control during the Board of Books construction. I mean, we're talking the summer when there's just piles of dust and dirt, and then you have a windy day. Their property was filled, the neighborhood was dirty. So a watering truck, they're stating, will be there to keep that under control. Providing landscaping and properly clearing that area daily, weekly, so that that stuff does not blow into our neighborhood. Right now, I don't know how it happens, but trash comes right over the fence and into my backyard, into their backyard, and then makes its way into the neighborhood itself. So if we can keep that under control, that would be greatly appreciated. The rodents, I'm freaking out about the rodents. There's a rodent program, I didn't know. So if we could really not have rodents, that would be great. The building itself is going to mirror the building, the Board of Books building, except for the back of it. So it's brick and mortar until you get to the back, which is the side that we look at. And you can see in the bottom photo, they're going to have paneling of some sort. So Eric has agreed, and we've asked for it to not be a solid white. I'd love it to be brick and mortar, but cost control, if they can't do that, at least involve us in picking out the color of the back of the building, because that's exactly what I'm going to be looking at. I think communication is key for this whole process. If there's going to be any type of delay in construction or extension on how long it's going to take to construct this building, that we should be notified in advance so that we're not caught off guard. If there's any night work that has to be done, pouring of concrete, like Al said, Board of Books had to do, they were working till 11 p.m., but they weren't notified. Just keep us in the loop. That's really all we ask for, is just keep us in the loop so that we're prepared when that happens. Going forward on the day-to-day business, I have a copy of the 2012 special permit that Brian Kelly got, so a lot of it is reiterating what that already says. The daily noise, the property line barrier, currently is a kind of a shaky little wooden fence there. If they're stating they'll put a taller, better fence with more soundproofing to maintain around the property and also onto Loris the way it currently is. Would love some greenery, anything to not have to listen to people unpacking their stuff, which leads me to people leaving their cars idling, leaving their music blasting in the car while they're packing up a dolly to pack that stuff up into the building. Proper signage is what we're requesting so that we don't have to listen to this. Just as the 2012 states, no outdoor paging systems, no outdoor music. We'd like that included. There's no vendor deliveries. I wrote that down, but apparently there's not really vendor deliveries. Trash and landscape is critical. They stated there will be no dumpsters. I would appreciate if the permit could state there will be no dumpsters on property, because I don't want 10 years from now all of a sudden a dumpster arrives and now we're dealing with the rodent thing again. So I'd love if the permit could state that. To provide and maintain landscaping, they're stating they are going to do that as well as along the property line and whatever comes over from 114. Lighting is a major concern. Currently, the lighting shines in the winter. When we have no foliage, the lighting goes right into our backyards if those lights don't shut off at a certain time as they're supposed to. So he's stating there'll be LED lights no higher than 9 feet off the ground, and they're supposed to focus straight down. I just want to make sure that's exactly what's going to happen. Hours of operation for the business, stated at the zoning board meeting and on the zoning board letter that we did receive, is going to be 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. We're asking that the weekend hours be changed a little bit, just so that we can enjoy our weekends. And Eric just stated a few minutes ago that he'd agree weekends, Saturdays and Sundays, 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. Another concern that I want to put out there is if you know the old Border Books location, you're aware there's only one egress, one way in, one way out. You cannot get to 114 East unless you go all the way down, I don't know if that's Sylvan Street, but whatever that is when you bang the U down by the giant glass. We want to prevent the 780 unit building to have their tenants say, oh no, I need to get over there, I'm just going to go down this neighborhood. There's 92 houses in our neighborhood. It's a small, really tight-knit. Usually there's a lot of people here, but they're not tonight. But it's a tight-knit neighborhood, lots of children, and people are already coming down our street and using it as a U-turn. I don't know how we can prevent that. Signage, post something stating that they can't do that would be great. Jack spoke of the snow removal. They've agreed to not put it in our backyard, a point of contact. And then on the special permit, we'd like it to state no egress, driveway, curb cut, or vehicle access from or onto Loris, so that it will continue to be the one way in, one way out, so that Loris is our only entrance into our neighborhood. We can't add any more traffic to that. We're asking, I'm going to put this out there, not sure if you guys can help us, but that right there, the 114 West and the Loris Road set of lights, it's literally, we put our life in our hands every single day when we leave our neighborhood, because the people on 114 are never paying attention to the light that they should be. They're looking to Cappies, and they blow through that light daily. The neighborhood knows. When I moved in, the first thing I was told, never go on green. You sit and you wait. And you thank your lucky stars on a regular basis that you sat and you waited, because people come 50 to 60 miles per hour. From Chandler's Ice Cream down to Sylvan Street is listed as one of the top 200 most dangerous intersections in the state. In 2017, there was 177 accidents, so it's about 15 a month. The police are coming to that little stretch of road more than they go to Lowell Street, which is twice the size. So with now they're moving their entrance closer to Loris, and I understand why, because the people will miss it at coming off 128, but you're talking about one tiny stretch that's going to have people coming onto 114 in one lane, and in that same lane, people are going to go into it to turn in to the storage unit, but at the same time, we're going to go into it to then wait for them to then go and take the right for Loris. And if I'm confusing you, I apologize. It's the smallest amount, and it is the most dangerous getting in and the most dangerous getting out. The fear is the people now are going to leave. They're going to want to get out of there. They're not going to see that red light, and they're going to blow it. So if you guys somehow can help us to get a delay on that light so that it doesn't go red-green, there's a red, and everybody sits for a second, and then it turns, we would appreciate the help on getting that, and it may alleviate some of the stress with the new entrance exit for that. I really do appreciate all of your time, and I hope that we can get some of this on that special permit and work together with Eric, LCI Management, and Jack Kelty to get this accomplished. Thank you.
Is there anybody else in the audience that would like to speak in opposition? In opposition? Seeing none, Councilor Mitsoulas.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. President, as most of you know, I've been in the hospital for a little while, and I haven't been up on this issue at all. Tom Gould has taken this issue for me, and he's had the neighborhood meetings, and he has all the information. He knows the neighbors. He knows what their concerns were. And I kind of got blindsided this evening. Forgive me for not knowing what I should know about this issue. But like I said, I was in the hospital and I had no choice. I couldn't make it. Well, Tom this evening got an emergency call. His mother's not doing well and he had to leave. And he gave me all the knowledge he had in his head that I don't have, you know what I'm saying? And there was quite a bit I was listening to here this evening, and it was quite a bit. It was too much for me to take in all in one meeting and know exactly what was going on. So I'm going to kind of leave it up to you, councilors. You know, have you been following this issue to the point where you're comfortable to make a vote on it? If not, please let me know and let me recess it till our next meeting. I know that the council doesn't want that to happen because they have some time restraints, but I don't think it's fair to have me come out and make the motions on something I'm not familiar with. So, councilors, any opinions here, or is there anything anyone would like to say before I do say something? No.
Councilor Shrest.
Thank you, Council President, and to Jim. Jim, I wasn't aware when the meeting with the neighbors happened, so I wasn't able to be there. I'm not sure how many other councilors were. And it is you know, with new plans that came in front, I have some questions and concern. I do think, listening to the neighbors and being the Ward 4 councilor, I certainly will be making a phone call tomorrow about the mall operating construction prior to 7 o'clock. But I do recognize that this is a opportunity to have something there that people are willing to work with you, and that's a good thing, and we want to embrace that. But I have very little knowledge on this project also. I certainly in line to support, but I certainly think if the councilor, the ward councilor has questions, you may want to exercise your right to get more information.
Councilor Turco.
Thank you, Mr. President. And Councilor Matsoulis, I don't think any of us were notified of the meeting. You were out, and maybe it got lost in the shuffle. I'm not sure if it was Attorney Kelty's meeting or Councilor Gould's, but I think none of us were there. But I did speak to Councilor Gould about this, and I was prepared to vote in favor, and even before I heard Haley speak. But I'm so happy that you guys have worked together so well to alleviate some of these problems. I think Haley may have to come back up and help us with some of the conditions that we would like to keep on that permit. But I would like to, I don't see an issue with moving forward, and I'll say why. About a year ago, we approved a similar facility when I was the Ward 1 councilor on Summit Street, and I was a little questionable about it. And, obviously I listened to the attorney tell me that it was a very limited use and people only visited their property once or twice a year, and I wasn't sure to believe that or not. But a year later, I will say that on Summit Street, which is a major traffic area, it's been no issue. I drive by that area multiple times a day, and I've never seen, mass egress or entrance into that property. I think you'll be surprised at how limited the traffic is coming in and out. The only concern that I had, and I'm not sure if I missed it, and this came up with that hearing that I mentioned, outdoor storage of vehicles. You're not looking for any outdoor storage at all?
No cars, no autos, no outdoor storage whatsoever.
Okay, so it's very similar to the permit that we approved on Summit Street. And, as I said, it was not a concern. While I have the floor, I did want to mention construction hours. The construction hours are dictated in the city ordinance, so there's no variation from that. So you guys have 7 a.m. to 4 p.m. on Saturday. The construction hours in the ordinance are 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. So, as long as we don't start construction until 9 a.m. on Saturday, 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday through Friday, that's fine. Mr. President, through you to the clerk, at one point, Tim had those placed into the special permit, the application. I'm not sure how it got lost in the shuffle, but if we could just make sure that those are already printed on the permit rather than have people fill in their own hours. This way we don't have to worry about missing it in future permit applications. So as long as you're for me, as long as you're willing to agree to that and make your client aware of that, I'm fine with it. The other thing that Councilman...
Apparently, we've also agreed to, well, no, we'll live with the Saturday ones because they're better than even the neighbors. So we'll live with the city hours.
Right, a little later in the morning, which is nice. The other thing that I want to make sure, Councilman Matsoulis, if you don't mind, is I want to make sure that that original condition that brings us here today, which says that any change in the use or permit stays in that permit, I think that was likely done, at some point to make sure that later on something that you don't want in your ward comes in there. So I'd like that condition number 5 from the original permit that states that any change in this use would come back before the Peabody City Council for a special permit alteration. And then the last thing that I wanted to mention to Haley, Haley, I know you said you didn't want a dumpster on the site because you were concerned about rodents. The only question I would have about that is, where are they going to put trash?
We don't have a dumpster at any of our facilities.
Okay.
The only place for trash is contained inside, and we don't encourage anybody leaving their trash there. So we're happy with no dumpster.
Okay, so you, on a daily basis, you may have 1 or 2 employees, and those employees will kind of take their own trash out on a daily basis?
They'll put it in their trash receptacle in the office area, and if they find trash within the building, they'll collect all that and they'll take care of it.
Do you just take it off-site?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. I just wanted to make sure that was addressed. And other than that, Councilman Matsoulis, I'm in favor of it. Thank you.
Councilman Manning Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you to Attorney Kelty. Attorney Kelty, is my memory serving me correctly? Is this the same Mr. Kelly that several years ago proposed a project there, but the neighborhood didn't want it, so he withdrew it?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. So, yeah, I have no problem moving. That's something I've never seen before, and that's something I've never seen since. And since you're working so well with the neighborhood, I don't have any problem at all moving forward for this gentleman. And that was several years ago. He hasn't put any proposal forward because he just really wants to be a good guy, a good neighbor, and a good businessman. So I think that needs to be recognized, and we need to continue to work with him in that good faith. I have no problem moving forward with this, and I can tell you, I have strong sense that if you do have some problems, even if it isn't a condition that's put on, I bet you he'll be willing to work something out moving forward. I don't have any concerns with this at all. Thank you.
Councilor O'Neill.
Thank you, Mr. President. Along the same lines of my colleagues, Councilor Turco and Councilor Manning Martin, I just would want to, and I'll defer ultimately to Councilor Matsoulis, it's his ward, but I just would, it seemed the discussion with the resident Haley, I forget your last name, I apologize, but very eloquent, talking about all the issues that have been worked through with not only the applicant, but, Councilor Matsoulis and Councilor Gould. I just want to make sure that, to confirm that none of those seemed they seemed like they were all in agreement, and I guess as long as, we address those tonight, if there's anything, we'd put in the condition as part of the special permit, but I just want to make sure that there's nothing that's out of the question or something you want to, I guess, contest tonight. I just want to make sure that there's full agreement so that we put them in there and that we're all going forward saying this is what's going to get done. Thank you.
In agreement with our neighbors.
Great, thank you.
Councilor McGinn.
Thank you, Mr. President. Through you to Councilor Matsoulis, since you were looking for some feedback. As Councilor Turco said, I don't think any of us were at that meeting, but the information that you got from Councilor Gould that you kind of referenced there, do you feel it captures the list of conditions that the residents have worked out, or is that a bit ambiguous in those notes, or do you think you have it there?
I think I would say that the counselor knew what he was talking about here. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Yeah.
Councilor Welton.
Thank you, Mr. President. Through you to Attorney Kelty. Just point of clarification, the business hours of operation listed in the application state that clients will have 24/7 access to the premises. And when Haley, the neighbor, had mentioned business hours. She was under the impression that you guys had come to more favorable terms. Is that correct?
That's correct. We'll agree to the hours, limited hours that the neighborhood would like because they work for us.
Okay.
That's all.
Councilor Charest.
Thank you, Council President. I just want to be clear on a couple of things. And when Haley was speaking about the accidents, and that's true. I was in an accident there, so it's true. It's a very dangerous road, but it is a state road, Councilor President. Am I correct? So I want to make sure that when you're talking about coming out of that parking lot, can the vehicles see that light, that red light that's to the right? That's my own concern. I want to make sure if you can address that. If they're coming up out of that parking lot and they want to take a right, they need to take a right-hand turn, can they actually see that light because the driveway has moved? Are they too far under it?
They can see it, but also the vehicles that are stopped or moving will be doing either right in front of them. We're at grade with 114 up at, it's Loris Road that comes from a lower elevation and then suddenly is at the top of Loris Road, and then they're confronted with the traffic. Our property will be at grade with 114. So yes, we will be able to see that light.
Okay, because I just want to make sure to understand that we really can't put anything on because it's a state road, correct? Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Charest. Councilor Mitsoulas, would you be willing to read what Councilor Gould put on papers to see if it's consistent with what Haley had mentioned?
It's actually was created by Haley, and it was the result of neighborhood meetings. So she's already presented what Councilor Gould had given to.
To receive?
Could you hand that to Councilor Mitsoulas and just have him read it for the record?
There's copies.
Perfect.
She has copies for everyone.
Please.
Yeah.
Okay. Councilor Turco, thank you very much. Did a good job.
Motion to receive. All in favor?
Thank you,
Any
Council.
opposed? Let's vote.
Okay. Yep.
Council President, can I just, we just...
Councilor Sasslaw.
We just received it. Can we take 30 seconds? This is, I think once everyone takes a look at the document, to read it, I don't know if it's really, okay.
No. I said 2-minute recess before we started, and it turned into 10. Sure. Just to the audience, sorry for the long delay. There was a medical emergency that had to take precedence over council business, so I apologize for the delay. I will now turn it over to Councilor Mitsoulas.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Before we continue, I just want to say, I want to repeat what Annie said. You know, it wasn't too long ago that Mr. Kelly was before this council, and I think one of the comments that were made is he was a class act, and that's on the issue that he had coming before this council. He backed out of an issue the neighborhood was opposed to, and the neighborhood ended up loving him. And I'm glad that he's before us now, and that's one of the reasons I am putting all my faith in him, because he is a man of integrity and he is a class act. As most of you know, I kind of lost my voice, and Peter McGinn is going to take over for me. And Peter, are you ready, or do you?
Councilor McGinn.
Thank you, Mr. President. So I don't know if there's any additional, are we moving to closing the hearing, or?
Oh, yes, yeah.
Councilor Mitsoulas.
Yeah, motion to close the public hearing, Mr. Chairman.
You heard the motion by Councilor Mitsoulas. All in favor, any opposed? It's a vote. Councilor McGinn.
Thank you, Mr. President. Move to approve the application from LCI Management, care of Eric Lacontio, 18 Sergeant Street, Gloucester, Mass., for a special permit seeking to amend condition number 5, special permit 14-1993 by changing the use of the property from auto storage as presently used to allow for self-service storage, which is an allowed by right use at 151 Andover Street, Peabody, Mass., as filed in accordance with sections 1.5, 6.1, and 15.7 of the Peabody zoning ordinance, with the following conditions: that the conditions 3 through 10 of special permit number 10, dated April 19th, 2012, apply to this special permit. That construction hours of operation be as in accordance with the ordinances of the City of Peabody. That the hours of operation be Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 8 p.m., Saturday and Sunday, 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. That a fence and other landscaping, visual, and sound buffers be established so as to mitigate the impact on abutters, and that the applicant be responsible for all associated maintenance of said buffers. That the applicant develop a photometric plan which is acceptable to the abutters. That signs be installed to address to establish that no idling cars be allowed on the property, and that music is not left on while on the property. That all conditions of the communication from the health director of the Department of Health, dated December 20th, 2020, be conditions of this special permit. That snow storage shall be in accordance with the revised site plan dated, I don't know what the, excuse me, Mr. President, I don't know what the date of the revised site plan that Attorney Kelty presented tonight was. Do we have that from the clerk? So that the revised site plan dated March 13th, 2020. Amend that to March 12th, 2020. That there be no outdoor storage on the property of any sort. And that condition 5 of special permit 14 from 1993 apply to this special permit, except that that condition will be changed where the use is established as a retail bookstore. In this case, that Condition 5 will list the use as self-storage facility. And I believe that's it. Thank you, Mr. President.
On the motion, Councilor Charest.
I'm sorry, did you get the lighting special permit for 9-foot tall LEDs?
Thank you. So before the incident there, I agreed with Attorney Kelty that that would be reflected on a photometric plan that they're going to provide. I'm going to ask one of the abutters to go to the microphone here for just a moment.
So moved.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. President.
Hi.
Since we did that kind of on the fly,
Yes.
were you checking off that I did you?
I just didn't hear you say about the permit saying no dumpsters on site. I may have missed it.
Yeah. That there, so I think that was picked up in, that's condition 10 of.
Okay. No, well,
the
that
two-
condition just talks about trash pickup.
No,
Number 10.
condition 10 says no dumpsters or trash pickup.
Right.
No dumps,
Right,
yeah,
so it
that's a
should
good
just
catch.
say-
Thank you very much. So
You're welcome.
the remaining condition would be that no dumpster be situated on the site.
And just wanted to make sure you said, because we weren't sure we heard it, that the condition about, from 1993, about any changes will continue. They have to go through the proper.
We have that.
Perfect,
Yep.
thank you.
Yep, and the rodent control, everything was captured under the health department list.
Thank
So I
you.
think we have it, Mr. President. So moved.
Thank you. You heard the motion by Councilor McGinn. On the motion, I just have one question regarding the public service comment, and that being construction review. Would you like to add that as one of your orders of condition?
Yeah, I think this automatically requires site plan review under zoning, section 12, but just for belts and suspenders, we'll add that as a condition as well, that construction and review and site plan review be required for this project. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor McGinn. Any questions on the motion? Seeing none, roll call.
Councilors Welton.
Yes.
Sasslaw.
Yes.
Mitsoulas.
Yes.
Charis.
Yes.
Manning Martin. Turco.
Yes.
O'Neill.
Yes.
Melville.
Yes.
McGinn.
Yes.
Rossignol.
Yes.
Motion carries 10-0.
Thank you. We'll now move to item 4F, and the clerk will read the notice.
Notice is hereby given that the City Council of the City of Peabody will conduct a public hearing on Thursday evening, March 12th, 2020, at 7:30 p.m. in the Frank L. Wigan Auditorium, City Hall, 24 Lowell Street, Peabody, Mass., in accordance with the provisions of Chapter 40A, Section 5 of the Massachusetts General Laws, to consider amending the zoning ordinance of the City of Peabody as follows: that the zoning ordinance of the City of Peabody, entitled Zoning Ordinance 2011, as amended, is hereby further amended as follows. Section 1, by adding to Section 2 definitions to the zoning ordinance: commissary kitchen, a room or group of rooms used primarily for preparing, cooking, and producing food for off-premise consumption, such as catering, not associated with a restaurant or fast food establishment, and where cooking or food preparation activities use commercial food processing equipment, such as convection ovens, grease filters, kitchen hoods, and similar types of equipment. Section 2, to amend Section 4, Table 4.2, Schedule of Use Regulations, to allow commercial kitchen use under 1,000 square feet by right in the following districts: GB, GBD, BR, BR1, IL, IP, DDD, and by special permit in BC, BN, and BN2. Larger than 1,000 square feet by special permit in GB, GBD, BR, BC, IL, IP, and DDD. Section 3, this ordinance shall take effect as provided by law. Peabody City Council, Councilor Thomas J. Rossignol, City Council President.
Thank you. Mr. Bellavance, if you'd like to come to the podium, state your name and address for the record, and your proposition regarding zoning ordinance change.
Good evening, Kurt Bellavance, Community Development Director here at City Hall, 24 Lowell Street. Before the council this evening is language to add in what's called a commissary kitchen. I appeared before the Industrial and Community Development Subcommittee a few months ago. At that time, they brought that. They voted to support this, brought it to the City Council, which then voted to advertise. We've gone before the Planning Board. The Planning Board endorsed this as well. Basically, we're trying to add a definition to the zoning ordinance that allows someone to do a catering or a commissary-style kitchen that's basically not associated with a restaurant. There are two minor changes that was picked up at the Planning Board on Section 2. In the second line where it says commercial kitchen, it should be commissary kitchen to match the definition. So that word commercial would be changed to commissary. And then on the last sentence, it does say larger than 1,000 square feet. It should say 1,000 square feet or larger, because we leave it at 1,000 square feet as no man's land. So either under 1,000 or over, but you don't have 1,000, so that clarifies that. So with those two changes, we're looking to have that ordinance passed by the City Council this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Bellavance. Councilor Turco.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'll be brief. I just wanted to say that I support this. I think we mentioned this in the past. This came forward due to the fact that we had several people apply for permits, one being Vincent Bianco's catering over on Summit, as well as the Big Pig Barbecue and the Armenian Grill over on Summit, that initially just wanted to open as caterers, but they had to have a different component according to our zoning, such as retail or fast food, and they really didn't want that, so this satisfies that need, so I would support this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Turco. Anybody in the audience that wants to speak in favor of this ordinance change? Anybody that wants to speak in opposition? Seeing none, Councilor Turco.
Thank you, Mr. President. Move to approve. Move to approve as advertised. Do I have to read the whole thing? Oh, move to close the public hearing.
You heard the motion. All in favor? Any opposed? It's a vote. Councilor Turco.
Thank you. Move to approve. I'm not going to read the whole thing. Move to approve the zoning ordinance of the City of Peabody entitled Zoning Ordinance 2011 as amended, hereby further as follows. Move to approve as advertised.
Councilor McGinn.
Thank you,
On the
Mr.
motion.
President. On the motion, I think the Director of Community Development was trying to point us to a couple of edits that the Planning Board pointed out, so if we could just capture those.
Thank you, Mr. Councilman McGinn, I appreciate that. With the two conditions, two changes recommended by Community Development Director Bellavance, where a commercial kitchen is changed to commissary kitchen, and the last line is changed to 1,000 square feet or larger.
You heard the motion by Councilor Turco to adopt the new ordinance with amendments. Any questions? Seeing none, roll call vote.
Councilors Welton.
Yes.
Sasslaw.
Yes.
Mitsoulas.
Yes.
Charis.
Yes.
Manning Martin. Turco.
Yes.
O'Neill.
Yes.
Melville.
Yes.
McGinn.
Yes.
Rossignol.
Yes.
Motion carries 10-0.
Thank you. We'll now move to reports of committee. Drug Education and Awareness Committee, Councilor Manning Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Drug Education and Awareness Committee met this evening, myself as chair, joined by members Councilor O'Neill and Welton. And we had Sharon Cameron, the Director of Public Health, join us this evening. And she gave an overview of the new initiative that Healthy Peabody Collaborative had brought forward regarding the William James College Interface Referral Service that the city has had up and running for about a month, and it's been very successful. And its effort is to connect those in need of mental health services, substance abuse referrals and services, and alike to a provider and assist them to getting beyond the barriers to get that help. And it provides hands-on help with clinicians and also assistance to navigating the healthcare system with to provide service to individuals. And in order for them to continue to use that, they had come to the council in need of additional funds, and the council voted 3-0 to fund $1,500 out of the Drug Education and Awareness Fund of the City Council to the City of Peabody Attention Sharon Cameron for this purpose, and that motion passed 3-0. So moved.
You heard the motion by Councilor Manning Martin. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, roll call vote.
Councilors Welton.
Yes.
Sasslaw.
Yes.
Mitsoulas. Mitsoulas. Charis.
Yes.
Manning Martin.
Yes.
Turco.
Yes.
O'Neill.
Yes.
Melville.
Yes.
McGinn.
Yes.
Rossignol.
Yes.
Motion carries 10-0.
And that is all to report. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilor Manning Martin. The next report of committee is the Finance Committee. Councilor McGinn.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Finance Committee of the City Council met early this evening, March 12th, 7 p.m. Present for the committee were Councilors Gould, O'Neill, Manning Martin, Turco, and myself as chair. Also present this evening, Councilors Welton, Mitsoulas, Charis, Melville, and Rossignol. There are 3 items on the agenda. The first item was a statement of interest for the center school. Presenting that to the City Council was School Committee Vice Chair and Member Beverly Ann Griffin Dunn. She explained what the needs were at the center school. There were a number of questions asked, and it was pointed out that the City Council has acted favorably on this same statement of interest in the past. With that, Councilor O'Neill made a motion, which I need to read in its entirety for the record. Motion by Councilor O'Neill. Move to submit the following statement of interest to the MSBA regarding the center school. Resolved, having convened in an open meeting on March 12th, 2020, prior to the SOI submission closing date, the Peabody City Council of the City of Peabody, in accordance with its charter, bylaws, and ordinances, has voted to authorize the superintendent to submit to the Massachusetts School Building Authority the statement of interest form dated March 26, 2020, for the center school located at 18 Irving Street, Peabody, Massachusetts, which describes and explains the following deficiencies and priority category for which an application may be submitted to the Massachusetts School Building Authority in the future. The MSBA priority selected is priority 7, replacement and renovation of or in addition to obsolete buildings in order to provide for a full range of programs consistent with the state-approved local requirements. The specific objective of this SOI is to partner with the MSBA in a feasibility study for the replacement of the center school. The educational deficits of the center school are articulated in the center school SOI and include the need for gym space, cafeteria space, food service, servery, and kitchen space, much needed upgrades to classrooms, meeting rooms, electrical, plumbing, and HVAC systems. And the Peabody City Council hereby further specifically acknowledges that by submitting this statement of interest form, the Massachusetts School Building Authority in no way guarantees the acceptance or the approval of an application, the awarding of a grant, or any other funding commitment from the Massachusetts School Building Authority, or commits the city to filing an application for funding with the Massachusetts School Building Authority. So moved, Mr. President. I now bring that to the full council for a vote.
You heard the motion by Councilor McGinn. Roll call vote.
Councilors Welton.
Yes.
Sasslaw.
Yes.
Mitsoulas.
Yes.
Charis.
Yes.
Manning Martin. Turco.
Yes.
O'Neill.
Yes.
Melville.
Yes.
McGinn.
Yes.
Rozignol.
Yes.
Motion carries 10 to 0.
Thank you, Mr. President. The second item on the agenda was a statement of interest for the Peabody Veterans Memorial High School. Again, for this item, it was presented to the Finance Committee by School Committee Vice Chair Beverly Ann Griffin Dunn, who again explained the reasons why the school committee had advanced this statement of interest for consideration. She addressed the questions of the committee and again pointed out that this is a statement of interest that the City Council had acted favorably on in the past. At that point, a co-motion was made by Councilors Gould and O'Neill, which I now bring as a motion to the full council, Mr. President. Moved to submit the following statement of interest to the MSBA regarding the Peabody Veterans Memorial High School. Resolved, having convened in an open meeting on March 12, 2020, prior to the SOI submission closing date, the City Council of the City of Peabody, in accordance with its charter, bylaws, and ordinances, has voted to authorize the superintendent to submit to the Massachusetts School Building Authority a statement of interest form dated March 26, 2020, for the Peabody Veterans Memorial High School located at 485 Lowell Street, Peabody, Massachusetts, which describes and explains the following deficiencies and priority categories for which an application may be submitted to the Massachusetts School Building Authority in the future. The MSBA priority selected is priority 7, replacement and renovation of or in addition to obsolete buildings in order to provide a full range of programs consistent with the state and approved local requirements. The specific objective of this SOI is to partner with the MSBA in a feasibility study for the replacement of the Peabody Veterans Memorial High School. The educational deficits of the Peabody Veterans Memorial High School are articulated in the Peabody Veterans Memorial High School Statement of Interest and include the need for much-needed upgrades in classrooms, science areas, industrial art classrooms, meeting rooms, electrical, plumbing, and HVAC systems, energy efficiencies, building envelope, disability, accessibility, and security considerations. And the City Council hereby further specifically acknowledges that by submitting this statement of interest form, the Massachusetts School Building Authority in no way guarantees the acceptance or the approval of an application, the awarding of a grant, or any other funding committed from the Massachusetts School Building Authority, or commits the city to filing an application for funding with the Massachusetts School Building Authority. So moved.
You heard the motion by Councilor McGinn. Roll call vote.
Councilors Welton.
Yes.
Sasslaw.
Yes.
Mitsoulas.
Yes.
Charis.
Yes.
Manning Martin.
Yes.
Turco.
Yes.
O'Neill.
Yes.
Melville.
Yes.
McGinn.
Yes.
Rozignol.
Yes.
Motion carries 10-0.
Thank you, Mr. President. The third item on the agenda was a request submitted by His Honor the Mayor requesting a transfer of cable to the cable fund expense. That was representing that request on behalf of the mayor was the Director of Finance, Ms. Gingras, and upon that explanation, a motion was made by Councilor Turco as follows. Move to approve the transfer from receipts reserve cable fund account number 270-0000-33017 in an amount of $228,173.96 to cable fund expense 270-0000-53007 in an amount of $228,173.96. I now bring that motion to the full council, Mr. President.
You heard the motion by Councilor McGinn. Seeing no questions on the motion, roll call vote.
Councilors Welton.
Yes.
Sasslaw.
Yes.
Mitsoulas.
Yes.
Charis.
Yes.
Manning Martin.
Yes.
Turco.
Yes.
O'Neill.
Yes.
Melville.
Yes.
McGinn.
Yes.
Rozignol.
Yes.
Motion carries 10-0.
Thank you, Mr. President. That the report is complete.
Thank you, Councilor McGinn. We'll now move to motions, orders, and resolutions. Councilor Welton.
Nothing to report this evening, Mr. President.
Thank you. Councilor Sasslaw.
Thank you, Council President. Under suspension of rules, motion to receive item 8D. And all papers being in order, approve the transfer.
Do you hear the motion? All in favor? Any opposed? It's a vote. Councilor Sasslaw.
No further motions, thank you.
Councilor Mitsoulas.
I have no motions, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Council President. Just one motion, ask the city clerk, working with the building commissioner, to send a notice to the general contractor of the mall. We heard tonight that the construction crew is starting prior to the start time that's allowed by city ordinance. If you can send a letter to them reminding them what the hours are and put them on notice that will be, now with the warmer season coming, windows will be open, so ask them to obey. And the only other thing I would like to say is thank
The
you.
motion, all in favor? Any opposed? It's a vote.
To thank you to all your counselors who've reached out to me and expressed your sympathy for the passing of my sister. It certainly means an awful lot to me, my family. At this time, it's a difficult week, this being my third sister that I've lost. So anyone who had a sibling that they might have passed will certainly understand that it's a trying time. So thank you again for all your support. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Councilor Charest. Councilor Manning Martin. Thank you, Councilor Turco.
I lost my train of thought for a second. Mr. President, one motion, I'm going to make a co-motion with Councilor Welton. If DPS could install truck signs with a depiction of the size of the vehicles that are restricted from Bartholomew Street on, I believe it's east and west, the east side on Linfield Street east of Bartholomew, and on Linfield Street west of Bartholomew, and on Lynn Street east of Bartholomew, and on Lynn Street west of Bartholomew, so that drivers coming in either direction are aware that the turn onto Bartholomew is truck restricted. I believe similar signs were were put up on Pulaski Street, so the DPW will be aware of the signs that we're looking for. But on
You heard
that
the motion by Councilor Turco. All in favor? Any opposed? It's a vote. Councilor Turco.
Move to receive and approve item 9A, all papers being in order, taxi cab license, Scott Rich, license 58.
The motion. All in favor? Any opposed? It's a vote.
Move to receive item 9B, all papers being in order, and approve all papers being in order. Item 9B, limousine license transfer, Sir Charles Limousine License 208, Sir Charles Limousine License 209.
You heard the motion. All in favor? Any opposed? It's a vote. Councilor Turco.
Move to receive and approve all papers being in order. Item 9C, utility contract license, Hydrotech, Inc., 170 Pratt Junction, Sterling, Mass.
You heard the motion. All in favor? Any opposed? It's a vote.
Move to receive and adopt item 10A, an ordinance amending Section 213 entitled Salary of the Mayor of the Code of the City of Peabody. All papers being in order.
As advertised.
As advertised, that's what I said.
You heard the motion. All in favor? Any opposed? On the motion, Councilor McGinn.
I'd like to request a roll call, Mr. President.
Roll call vote.
Councilors Welton,
Yes.
Sasslaw,
Yes.
Mitsoulas.
Yes.
Charis.
Yes.
Manning Martin,
Yes.
Turco,
Yes.
O'Neill,
Yes.
Melville,
Yes.
McGinn,
Yes.
Rozignol.
Yes.
Motion carries 10-0.
Councilor Turco.
No further motions, Mr. President.
Councilor O'Neill.
Thank you, Mr. President. On suspension of the rules, motion to receive item 8A, the co-motion between Councilor Rossignol and myself regarding potholes on Pearlie Ave. So moved.
You heard the motion. All in favor? Any opposed? It's a vote. Councilor O'Neill.
Thank you, Mr. President. Under suspension of the rules, move to accept, to receive item 8E, set from MEC Peabody Associates Limited Partnership and set up a special, special hearing, special permit hearing, so moved.
You heard the motion. All in favor? Any opposed? It's a vote. Councilor O'Neill.
Thank you, Mr. President. Under suspension of the rules, move to receive item 8F, the annual report, 2019 annual report from Aggregate Industries, and move to set up a committee of the whole meeting to review. So moved.
The motion. All in favor? Any opposed? It's a vote. Councilor O'Neill.
No further motions. Thank you.
Councilor Melville.
Thank you, Mr. President. I don't have any motions this evening, but I did want to just emphasize to people watching at home and on fellow councilors that there's been some information put on the city's website regarding the coronavirus and different actions that the city is taking and actions that individuals can take. This is kind of one of those issues that's going to require a local, state, and federal response. I really appreciate everything the health department is doing. They're being advised of it, and it's changing hourly. So I would suggest that people take a look at that. I know there's some information going to be sent out via email and robocalls, so just be aware and look after your neighbor. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor Melville. Councilor McGinn.
Thank you, Mr. President. Under suspension of the rules, move to receive item 7A, and this is communication from His Honor the Mayor dated March 6, 2020, and move to approve the various reappointments listed on this communication. So moved.
Heard the motion by Councilor McGinn. All in favor? Any opposed? It's a vote. Councilor McGinn.
Thank you, Mr. President. Move, under suspension of the rules, move to receive item 7B and refer to finance. So moved.
You heard the motion. All in favor? Any opposed? It's a vote. Councilor McGinn.
Thank you, Mr. President. On suspension of the rules, move to receive item 7C and refer to finance. So moved.
You heard the motion by Councilor McGinn. All in favor? Any opposed? It's a vote. Councilor McGinn.
Thank you, Mr. President. On suspension of the rules, move to receive item 8B. So moved.
You heard the motion. All in favor? Any opposed? It's a vote. Councilor McGinn.
Thank you, Mr. President. Under suspension of the rules, move to receive item 8C and refer to the matter of agenda item 4A. So moved.
You heard the motion. All in favor? Any opposed? It's a vote. Councilor McGinn.
Thank you, Mr. President. Under suspension of the rules, move to receive item 8G and refer to the matter under agenda item 4E. So moved.
You heard the motion. All in favor? Any opposed? It's a vote. Council McGinn.
Thank you, Mr. President. No further motions.
Thank you, Councilman McGinn. I just have one thing that I just wanted to bring forward to the council as a point of information. I know earlier we were going to have a hearing regarding Endicott Street, and if that was to take place, that would have needed a majority vote, a supermajority vote. It wouldn't just be a majority vote. In the newspaper on Thursday, 3/5, and I'll read the heading, "Opening the door to growth, Baker plans to supercharge housing development." So for those in TV land that are still up watching this, and for the council, I just want everybody to be aware, the state is pushing to only make it a majority vote. The reason why that the petitioner pulled his request this evening for that particular parcel was because he didn't think he had 8 of us to move forward. That's what it takes in Peabody to move a development forward, is 8 votes, not a simple majority. And I take offense that the state is trying to hamstring and trying to minimize developments in their city and town and making it one blanket statement and making it just a majority instead of a supermajority. And I'm just going to read a couple of quotes out of the article, and this was on Thursday the 5th by Governor Baker and a few of his staff members that are really trying to hammer this home for local cities and towns and make it just a simple majority. The governor has announced a $240 million economic development bill, the third under Charlie Baker's administration, that could supercharge housing development across the state, overcoming one of the biggest hurdles, the city council. Just think about that for a second. Us as a city council are elected by our peers, by our neighbors, so that we can try to do what we think is best for the city. And the state instead wants to say, well, as long as I can get 6 of you, then we'll be able to jam this down your city's throat and not have to really look at the development. I think all of us, every one of us here, really do our due diligence over every development that happens in this city and agonize over it in some cases, whether we think it's good or whether we think it's bad or whether we think it's going to be great 20, 30, 60 years down the road, so that we try to do what's best for our city. And by minimizing that and only making it a simple majority, I think that that really does us a disservice. I just want to read a couple of other glaring things that really popped out about this article. Housing choice bill filed by Baker late last year, among other things. The bill features as part of the newest economic development bill with lower requirements for zoning changes from the supermajority, as I had mentioned, to a simple majority, which in this case would be an 8-person vote to just a 6-person vote. But ultimately, the housing choice provision needs to move forward, said Mike Kennedy, Baker's Secretary of Economic Development. If we're not able to remove this barrier of local zoning, we won't have the kind of housing production the communities we want. So he's looking at us doing our due diligence as a barrier to jam more housing down each city's and town's throat. I found that article, and I understand what Governor Baker's trying to do, and I applaud him for trying to improve and develop affordable housing and workforce housing. But what's happening is you have cities and towns that are trying to develop those projects being hamstrung and being forced to even increase that development further when you have other cities and towns not doing their fair share to improve and increase fair market value housing. So that was my soapbox. I just wanted everybody to be aware of what the state is trying to do. On that statement, Councilor Sasslaw.
Thank you, Council President, and I appreciate you bringing it to the floor. And as you said, I think you used a great word, agonize. As you know, I believe you were here. I mean, just this past Monday night, I was here at City Hall to support a friendly 40B because we as a community, we are so close. I don't know if everyone knows, but I believe the word came out of community development. We're 5 units away from hitting 40B. 5 units. That was publicly stated, I'm pretty sure, but I'm going to publicly state it. But more importantly, and this happens a lot of times too, and I think it's important that the public knows it, is that I think we're trying to get there, and I don't think there's any perfect spot. I mean, in Peabody, there's not a lot of raw land left. So as you said, I agonize over it. There were some people who came up and weren't in favor of it, but I'm just trying to do the best I can. But a lot of times, what's frustrating too as a community is a lot of times it comes up all the time about why can't we get the 11 mobile home parks counted? And I'm not going to open that up. I'm just going to say I've been on the council for 7, 8 years. I've heard the previous history from previous councilors, from state reps. Unfortunately, it's not going to happen. But that being said, I think we do. Those units, people recognize why maybe they should be counted, and I think we continue to provide to the state an affordable housing. So I appreciate you bringing it up because, as you said, I get calls. Everyone wants to. There's a little bit of land left on Route 1, and I get calls, and it's very difficult because I said it the other night. Route 1. I mean, I know it's a highway, and it's easy for everyone to say put everything on Route 1, but if you go on Route 1. It's 24, during the commuting hours and even after the commuting hours, it's busy. Years ago, when you used to go to Boston in the afternoon after 12 o'clock, there was never every traffic. And I sound like a broken record. After 2 o'clock, 1 o'clock, Route 1 is both directions. And, and I believe that, I do believe that the jug handle does not help out. It's a story for another day. But I just know that the traffic is there and people trying to navigate Route 1 and get out between the fast foods, the Dunkin' Donuts, the gas stations. So it's easy to say, just put it on Route 1. But at some point, Route 1 is a safety factor too, and there's issues there too. So I know that, as I agree with you, I think as my colleagues, we all try and do our due diligence, and we take it seriously. We do try and, what's going to be the legacy 20, 30, 40 years down. And so I think we do a pretty good job, and I appreciate you saying, and I understand what the Baker administration is trying to say, but I mean, we're close. We've struggled with it, and God, if we can get there and then have it pulled out from underneath us, that makes it that much more difficult. Thank you.
Councilor Mitsoulas.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I understand exactly what you're talking about, and I agree with you. And I've been waiting for councilors to kind of have these conversations. It's something I don't want to get into because I don't want to be one of the first ones to bring it up and talk about it. Like yourself, you probably thought about it and said, geez, I really don't want to start something here in Massachusetts. But let me tell you my feeling about this, okay? This is not a Massachusetts problem. It's a problem in every state in the United States. We're overcrowded, okay? And it's almost like nobody wants to say this, It's because if you do, it sounds like you're taking sides. I don't want to take the side of a Democrat or a Republican, but we have 30 million people living in this country, okay, that shouldn't be here. I mean, and I'm not saying that's something we want to talk about, but that's why we're overcrowded. We don't have enough housing to support 30 million people, and that's supposedly what we have here. And I don't know if that is an accurate number or not. But if you have that amount of people, you have to find a place to house these people. So, you know, and I'm not talking about immigrants. Listen, I'm an immigrant. I was born in Greece, you know, came over here and, you know, like most people did when I came over. I have compassion for everybody, but I have compassion for the people that live in this country and are having a hard time trying to make it. And everybody, you know, deserves a shot. And I really don't want to get into that now because I don't want to be labeled as anything. That's why I say you had a lot of courage to bring that up and say something like that. And it sounded, and myself, when I see things like that, I see the laws that we have, and I see the laws changing. Okay, even the laws in our city right now. There was a certain time, there was certain housing you couldn't put in a certain place. Now it seems like I see housing going on. I see condos and apartments going up where they should have never gone, you know? And I'm talking about my ward and Peter's ward, and that is all created from this need of housing. So I agree with you, Counselor, and yeah, I sympathize with you. Thank you, and I didn't mean to get off the track, so thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Manning Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And when you first started speaking, I wasn't sure where you were going, and I'm glad that you did raise the issue because I agree with you 100%. And I think sometimes the state forgets that, you know, a supermajority, in our case, in the city of Peabody, is 8 peers, 8 residents who are duly elected by their constituents and residents of the city of Peabody. And sometimes those 8 peers are the last line of defense to protect the neighborhood's quality of life and their character of their neighborhood. So, and I think the state is wrong in pushing this initiative, and I agree with you 100%. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Manning Martin. Councilor Welton.
Thank you, Mr. President. Not to belabor the point, but just wanted to throw my 2 cents in as well. I applaud you for bringing that up. I think I agree with you. I don't think that there should be a sweeping change to get rid of a supermajority for such an important piece of development for our city. You know, as being new on the council, I'm still obviously figuring a lot of this out, but I do know in my short amount of time here that the 40B statute is outside of our purview, so it's incumbent upon us to be looking at developments that fit within our community in a way that we're able to work with some of the developers and see where the opportunities might be. I would love for us to be in a different situation, but 9.9 is not 10%, and it's not going to be 10% until we get there, so it's on us to try to figure that out. But thank you.
For the discussion, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Thank you.